You know, it really bothers me that using the proper command of the king's language is only associated with educated white people. That really bothers me.
I know, because for me, it's like, if there's a time and place for everything, is it really code switching? Hmm.
Dead
One,
ass.
two, three.
It all started with real talk, unfiltered, honest, and straight from the heart. Since then, we've gone on to become Webby Award-winning podcasters and New York Times best-selling authors.
Deadass was more than a podcast for us. It was about our growth. A place where we could be vulnerable, be raw.
Pause. But most importantly, be us.
But as we know, life keeps evolving, and so do we. And through it all, one thing has never changed.
This
is Ellis Ever After.
Dead ass.
Because we got a lot to talk about.
Story time. I'm gonna take y'all back to August 2010.
Oh man,
I
you got
believe.
down to the month.
Yes, August 2010.
I
The
don't
reason why I
remember what I ate
remember is
yesterday.
because I had just come back from, matter of fact, it was August 2009.
Okay.
And I had just got cut from the Cleveland Browns.
Mhm.
I had went back to Hofstra I went back to visit just to see how football was going during the summertime. And I ran into, what's his name? That worked for NBA TV, Jared Greenberg.
Jared Greenberg.
I walked into Jared Greenberg, and Jared was just like, "Hey, Deval, are you interested in doing TV? I know you used to do radio for me. You talk a lot. You're a funny guy." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm interested in doing some television." At the time, he had no clue that I wanted to get into TV film, so I saw this as an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, "Hey, they have a job as a sideline reporter for MSG Varsity if you're interested."
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "Bet." He took me into the office. We did a sideline report, a video on a green screen. He pitched it to his people. They were just like, "Oh, we love Deval." They hired me. Boom. So
Mm-hmm.
now I have a job as a sideline reporter for high school football for Brooklyn, Long Island, Staten Island.
Yeah.
And I did my first game. I remember my first game. It was Erasmus versus Lincoln.
Back home.
And back home. And I remember it coming on TV, and you sat there and you watched it.
I did.
And you smirked.
I did.
And I was like, "What you think?" And you was like, "Terrible." And I was like, "What?" And you was just like, you took 4 years of voice and diction classes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was part of the 4 years.
Well, part of, yeah. But we had to take voice and diction
program.
every year.
Yeah.
And you were like, "Why the hell do you sound so Brooklyn?" And I was just like, to be honest, I didn't realize. I just wanted to give my personality, give a little. And you was like, "No, that's not how this works."
Uh-huh.
Someone comes to the number one rule you said to being a reporter or news is don't become the story.
Yep.
So you can't input yourself in the story. And you had me practice on changing my dialect to say the end of my words and not use so much slang.
Right.
And you know what that job ended up? Well, you know what that ended up happening?
Tell them.
I ended up getting an in-studio analyst job.
Sure did. And he was sitting there with the anchors and reporting and doing such a great job. I remember watching it when you finally hit the desk, and I was just like, dang, like he really just took that time. You didn't get offended. You weren't like, no, you were just like, yo, help me get better. Help me learn. And you know what that did? That freed up a spot for your girl. And I ended up on the sideline reporting after that.
A sideline reporter while I was an in-studio analyst and doing
that
color
was what
commentary.
I wanted to do all along, y'all. That was the plan all along. No, who knew that was going to happen? But it was great that it did, and we had a couple games that we would go into work together. So we've been working together, y'all, for a long time. We have had several jobs together and several jobs separately. But that's crazy. It just made me think about that.
I got to go back on my Instagram. There are pictures of us at the same games at Hofstra where you did sideline reporting and I did in-studio analyst and play-by-play.
Absolutely. And see, the funny thing at the time was I didn't really understand some of like the technicalities behind the sport. So I would have to like call you sometimes to be like, "All right, babe, what just happened? Which coach do I got to interview? What I got to ask him?"
I'd be like, grab that coach. Grab the Uniondale coach. They up.
And
Don't grab the Farmingdale coach. They lose and leave him alone.
Absolutely, because sports reporting is a different kind of reporting. You have to have some sort of, understanding of the game. So I was learning as I went. But we did mad things together, bro. Dap me up.
Let me explain something to you, man. Toddlers' biggest worry in the world is someone not sharing with them. You don't share with a toddler, it is a problem. Yo. Look at this. Kyra done ate 4 bags of chips already. but he wants Jackson's. Jackson, thanks for being a good big brother, bro. I see you still sharing. There you go. See, you just gotta roll with the punches sometimes. As the oldest, you know, I had to do it. Your mother had to do it. Mimi had to do it. You know, it's oldest. You know, you gotta do what you gotta do. All right. You will be rewarded later on in life, and later on today. I got you. All right, homie. All right. You better share with Kaz when he wakes up. You hear me, Cairo? Look, he not gonna share. Look at him. He not gonna share.
Karaoke. Mm-hmm. This song seems to fit perfectly. I don't know the whole song.
Okay.
I only know the beginning of the song because from one of my favorite TV shows.
Tell me, what we got?
Since we're talking about code switching, I think it only makes sense that we go here.
Okay.
Dun, 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 dun. It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. It's not unusual to something else with anyone. And when I see you out, then I dance with anyone.
It's not unusual to see me cry.
I wanna die. Shout out to my man Carlton Banks, bro.
Right, the original code switcher. I mean,
yes.
Did he even really switch? I think he was stuck.
No, he was stuck. He didn't code switch. But there was an episode where they went to LA to go to MacArthur Park.
Yes, I remember that.
And he
one.
code switched to be with the homies.
Yes.
And then they liked him more than they liked Will, and Will ain't like it.
I remember
and that's a very important episode, especially in the 90s. We're dealing with code switching. And
it was big.
They were calling Carlton a sellout,
right.
which is important that we talk about this today because
right.
we want to talk about code switching a little bit.
Sounds good. Well, I guess we should go pay some bills and come back and we'll get into the meat of the show. Stick around, y'all.
Val, hurry up. You know, getting hot under these lights. Where are your pants, though, bro?
I don't need pants. They only shooting from here up.
Why don't you just put your pants on? I'm dressed. I got my shoes on. Get your pants on.
You was standing here with no books. How you doing a book shoot with no books? You worried about my pants. You worried about the wrong thing.
Put the pants on. I want to see the whole outfit together.
Josh, I don't want to do this no more.
You can get me alone.
Excuse me, I bought these.
We do this promo by myself.
Kadeem, you mad petty.
You got the shot?
Got it.
But we need you. You were cute and all, but we need you.
All right, we back.
We're back. It's time for DeVal's favorite part of the show.
Yes.
Op or no op. All right, what we got today, Tribble?
Well, in the news in April, it was announced that the Academy, the Oscars folks, they are now requiring Academy voters to watch the films before they vote for them.
The key word that Tribble said, y'all, now.
Yeah.
They are now. So you mean to tell me this whole time people weren't watching all the films?
After 100 years, they did not require them to watch the films. They said they were basing it on the honor system. Of course, if you're in the Academy, you're a voter, you want to watch the films. But I think that a lot of the people in the Academy were maybe too busy making films or making money off of films to watch the films. So
isn't that a conflict of interest, though? If you're making films, investing in films, and then you're not voting on films. So they were voting off of vibes. Vibes
pretty
and
much.
Wherever their money was. That's insanity.
Yeah, that's what I think Conan O'Brien said that. He was like, we vote off vibes in this country.
That's what he said.
We don't.
In this country, that's an absolute fact.
In every facet,
not
in
just
every
the
institution.
Oscars, bro.
Yeah.
Listen, I have a quick opinion about it. We have to be more careful with who we give our standard of excellence, right? Because we provided them with the standard of excellence, saying that we all want to aspire to be that, only to find out that they didn't give a shit. Really, they was just voting off vibes. So it's like this whole time for 100 years, we said this was the pinnacle of excellence.
Right.
Come to find out that they didn't even treat it as the pinnacle of excellence. But that speaks more to us. Why do we always say that their version of excellence
is what we aspire
to? So now they know. Because now for 100 years, I got to look back at all of these films and be like, was that really the best film of the year?
Right. A lot of times it wasn't.
You see what I'm saying?
Wasn't.
A lot of times
now
it wasn't.
It loses. The golden statue has lost in a lot of its gold now. Now it's bronze to me.
Yeah,
it's
you're just
giving
really
gold-plated.
watching what somebody else likes.
Yeah. It kind of lost it for me. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Is that I feel like, not only just for Black creatives,
Facts.
for everyone, bro.
Everyone.
Like, first of all, the people who vote is like 98% white. So automatically, they're not watching many films of color.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just be honest. So how do you vote for a film that you don't even watch? You just look at it and say, you know what, Meryl Streep was in this. I'll go there.
Meryl's kind of always solid.
Daniel Day-Lewis was in that one. Yeah, Tom Hanks, let me throw that there.
Well, by theory, that should work. But Steven Spielberg directed Color Purple, nominated 11 times, didn't win once.
Because it was called The Color Purple.
I know. That's what I'm saying. By theory, it should work by you seeing Steven Spielberg's name.
True.
You check
You would
off.
think
Like,
it was-
and it's
oh,
like,
I see.
wait, that movie, nah.
So at least they
Cast
read the
might be a little too
synopsis.
brown.
They might not have watched the movie, but they read the synopsis. And then that was when they chose.
My opinion is that it's fucking ridiculous.
My opinion is
that. Steps.
Josh?
I like that.
I got an opinion, and I like that.
Yeah. There you go.
Why can't cuss suck my teeth? Pause on camera. Wait.
Next time.
My opinion is, here's the thing, right? We got doctors who prescribe prescriptions for us all the time. Can you imagine if they prescribe those prescriptions without even looking at our symptoms or whatever?
Yes.
This is equivalent to that. Just
Facts.
picking stuff just based off of, I feel like this today and I like this today, so I'm gonna just do this.
But I
just
feel
'cause.
like they might do that already. 'Cause
Doctors.
the whole medical market is based off of business. So it's like, you don't really need it.
What
man.
needs to be pushed? What's that new drug?
That is
who am I got my
true,
stocks
yo.
in?
That's America.
Yeah.
It's the American
Zempic.
So the Academy Awards is a
We
microcosm
know.
of the United States, pretty much.
Absolutely.
I got you.
I mean, it's everything.
I agree.
It's everything.
They have a gold statue. We got an orange
We
one.
talked about this
Hey.
with Shador
Same
Sanders.
shit.
Like, how do they choose who gets picked in the draft? Remember, we talked about with Shador Sanders. Like,
Yeah.
what was the criteria? We don't know. They move the goalposts every time.
Every
Yeah.
year.
So
I mean, the draft's a little bit different because you're picking based off your personal needs as a team, like your team needs. It's a little bit different.
It is a little bit different. It is a little bit different, but I will say this. You are drafting with a purpose and also to send a message.
Yeah,
And you can also not draft or draft somebody to send a message.
true.
So I think it's kind of similar.
Bring us home, Tribble.
Yeah, I like what you said about our standard of excellence being compared to somebody else. We're talking about code switching today. And for me, that brought up the biggest movie right now is Sinners.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Coogler, one of the best directors. I think when I went to see Wakanda Forever, I made a video saying that somebody needs to give Ryan some pussy today and every day.
Because it was so good.
Because it was amazing, and I hope that he's getting some pussy after Sinners came out because it opened with $48 million. It only dropped 6% in the second weekend, which is a low drop for a horror film. But before the movie came out, there was a video of Ryan that was circulating online where he was talking about all the viewing options for the film. So it's the first horror film to be filmed simultaneously in IMAX and 70 millimeter. And so there's like 7 different viewing options, and he was talking about all of these technical aspects of film, but he talking like a nigga from Oakland. You know, he like, first of all, I want y'all to see what's happening. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know how California dudes talk? Which to me, that was amazing to see a black man talking like a black man, talking about something that a lot of people don't think black men can do.
Yes.
So I want to know, do you have op or no op?
Man, that's a good one. The only thing the only issue I have is the fact that, like you said, a black man speaking like a black man. Like, black men are not monolithic. And the only way I hate the fact that people relate blackness to where they grew up, which means, like, for example, he grew up in the hood. So it's like your blackness is only to the hood. Like, I'm from Brooklyn, which means that the minute I stopped talking like I was from Flatbush and I stopped talking gutter, I lost my blackness a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
I'll push back on that. I think that there is a such thing as a black vernacular wherever you're from. White people from Brooklyn don't sound like you. So
Okay.
it's not that all black people talk this way. It's that nobody else speaks that way.
I disagree.
Because
I
I wanted to ask, what's black vernacular?
Yeah, I don't know, but I know that slang that's used in New York. I know how your accent. It doesn't matter your skin or whatever. I know white people. I know Italian people. I know every culture that can sound like a real New Yorker from the hood. Don't matter what you look like.
I think New York has an accent. White people from New York have an accent, but it still does not sound the same.
Yeah.
As
I hear you.
black
And
people
I'm a
from
West
New York.
Indian from New York, so sometimes I sound like a mosh pit of things.
I just think it's problematic when you say someone don't sound black. Because then it's like, if I'm black and I speak how I speak, you telling me I don't speak how I look because I don't sound like the rest of y'all, that's projecting that I have to sound like y'all in order to own my blackness. That's the only thing I push back on. It's like, I wouldn't say he sounds black. I would say he sounds like he's from Oakland and he was born and he's from that area. But not to say he sounds black, I think that to me is the issue.
I think there can still be an eloquence around speaking like where you're from. Like people can still understand you. So my thing with Ryan is like, I think he's super brilliant. I think that he has amazing knowledge about this stuff. And I'm listening to him talk about all these different films, but it's sometimes just hard to understand what he's saying. And I never thought like, oh, this black man can't speak well. It was more like, I don't understand where he comes from, that accent. You know, I didn't equate it to his education. It just sounds like where he's from.
He's not eloquent.
Right.
Like certain people are eloquent. For example, you listen to Barack Obama speak and you can just listen to him speak because the way he speaks, the way he puts words together, he doesn't stutter, he doesn't have long gaps in between.
Right.
He speaks, well, we studied oratory. There's a way you're told to speak in oratory classes in order to captivate an audience.
Like a cadence about how you speak. And Jay-Z, for example, Jay-Z speaks eloquently, I think, but he's from Brooklyn and I could tell he's from Brooklyn.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't necessarily equate to
that's a good point.
Education versus where you're coming from. It's just like Brian, sometimes it'd be like, Ryan, I want to like hit him on his back, like, Ryan, get it out, bro. Get it out. I can't. I get to the point, you know.
Who's the other filmmaker that's from Oakland? Who is oh my gosh, I don't know why it's escaping me, but my point is that everybody from Oakland doesn't speak like Ryan Coogler. You know what I'm saying? It's like everybody from Brooklyn don't speak like DeVal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I just don't want to put that on all black men. That if you get on camera, you have to sound like where you're from. Or else you lose your blackness. That's just my only opinion.
Here's my pushback to that. You know, Tom Hanks' son, Chet Hanks.
Yeah.
Have you heard him do his Jamaican accent? And what would you say?
He sounds Jamaican.
Okay, so
he don't sound black.
But
Jamaicans are white too and Asian.
But he's not Jamaican.
But that's a poor example though. But you said he sounds Jamaican. You didn't say he sound like a black Jamaican.
What about you've heard the rapper G-Eazy?
No.
You know the other white rapper, what's his name? The curly hair guy. If a white person came up to you and they started talking to you like you speak, what you wouldn't say anything? You'd be like, "Why are you talking black? Like that's weird."
No, this is my thing. I think that's often a projection from people. I never like to put on people that you sound black or you sound white because I hated feeling like growing up in Brooklyn. When I started to go to different schools, they would say you sound like a white boy. So part of me pushing back on that is also my own personal experience. It's like, you can't tell me I sound like a white boy because I don't sound like you. I'm black and I'm from Brooklyn. I sound how I sound. So my version of blackness sounds like this. And I just don't want everybody to put that on him like, oh, he sound black. It's like, no, he sound like Ryan. You know what I'm saying? There are black people from Oakland who don't sound like Ryan Coogler. And what we going to say about them? They don't sound black. That's the thing I want to push back on that. Blackness cannot be associated with one sound.
I would agree with you, but Ryan sounds black, bro.
Right. If he called you on the phone, you would be like, this is a black man on the phone. We know what sounding black means.
You would assume it's a black man.
We don't think that every black person has to sound a certain way, but we absolutely know that sounding black is a thing and we know what it means.
Once again though, right? We're talking about our experience. You put Ryan Coogler on the phone with a white person from Indonesia, he's not going to say that person sounds black. He's not even going to know what they're saying. That's what I'm saying. Everything we know comes from our perspective. So we know that he sounds black because we've heard black people around us. Other people around the world haven't heard all people from Oakland speak, so they wouldn't say automatically that he sounds black. We say it because we're black.
In America.
I don't want to put that on black people. You see what I'm saying? What does an Indian person from Slovakia sound like?
What?
Exactly.
Where's Slovakia?
That's my point. What do they
Indian
sound
person
like?
can only be from India.
So within that country, there's dialects.
This is what I'm saying.
And there's
Does
accents.
anybody
And there is a such thing as a black dialect. That's what I'm saying. Like
who?
To us.
But
to everybody.
Going back to your Jamaica example, there's some white Jamaicans I can't even understand more than some country Jamaicans I know.
Facts.
Like I grew up with.
And
Jamaican's not a good example. That's not a good example.
There's some white people that we know from Brooklyn that sound, I know what you mean, Triple, that sound like black people. For example, Black Brooklyn. There's a young man that lives on your block. He married the girl from your block.
I know you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about. If I were to see him,
sound like a brother.
Seeing him coming
That's a
towards
problem.
me,
That's
he's
a
a white
problem that
dude.
we say that.
And then that's what we would say. He sounds like DeVal.
What I'm saying is that's a problem.
It's
that
not
we,
a problem if we own the fact that Black culture is a thing. Black
Some people
vernacular
aspire
is
towards
also a
it.
thing that comes out of Black culture. For instance, Black people in Chicago have a very specific accent, and it is due to the culture of the Great Migration. A lot of Black people in Chicago, their grandparents came from Mississippi and Alabama during the Great Migration, and so their accent is influenced by the Southern accent. So they sound different than white Chicagoans who have been living in the Midwest for a while or came from different parts of the country. That is a part of the culture. Black vernacular comes out of the culture. It's not a problem. I think that other people, if you grow up in Black culture,
for you, this is op or no op. I'm saying that it's a problem for me that we are saying that this person sounds like a color. Like that is a problem. For me, it's a problem. Like I'm not saying you wrong. It's op or no op. My point is that I don't ever want my vernacular to be associated with a color. That's because think about it. If a white person were to say, "Yo, you sound like a black man," what's the first thing they're gonna say?
That's a problem then.
That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
So how come Tribble gets to say it?
No, I don't like it when Black people say other people sound
That's
like
what
white,
I'm saying.
sound like white people. I hate it.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's problematic that we say that a person has to sound black or say a person sounds black. That's the wildest thing ever. What does blackness sound like?
It still happens though. People say it, and I get it, Tribble.
That's is that it is true. Like people do sound like other ethnicities or other colors or whatever. You just sound that way.
I feel you. What I'm saying is that it's problematic that we say it. Just because we say it, like for example, white people, Black people say nigger, why can't we say it? Just because we say it don't mean that it's not problematic. That's my point. Calling somebody a nigger, calling someone a racial slur or a homophobic slur is a problem, right? But people say it, right? Don't they say it?
They do.
But it's still problematic, though.
How does that correlate with?
This is how it correlates. It's just because we say it doesn't mean that it's not problematic.
Okay.
Saying to someone like you sound black and giving someone's vernacular a color when we're saying that we don't want to be defined by our color is problematic for us as people. That's just my thing.
That's fair.
Like we can't say applaud Ryan Coogler for being a director, not just being a black director. Don't we say that all the time? Applaud him for being, for example, he said it. When he first came out with Black Panther, they kept saying that it was the greatest black, he was the highest grossing black director for that year, right? He was like, but I was also the highest grossing director for that year.
Ever.
But they kept putting black on it. You know,
and now they keep bringing up his deal. And he's in an interview getting pressed, and they keep talking about his deal. And
his blackness.
He pretty much was just like, I have some ideas as to why this is such a hot topic.
Right.
But I'd rather not speak on it.
Because he didn't want to bring race. So when black people bring up race, he sound black. It's like we want to be the only ones to be able to say, let's put his blackness on the forefront.
I guess to also celebrate the blackness in a moment like this.
But this is my thing, though. It's problematic for us.
To always attach it.
To always attach it and then try to detach it when we want it detached. It's problematic because it creates mixed messages. We can celebrate excellence without celebrating. And this is why it's important that we talk about this going into code switching, right?
Yeah, we're already in the episode, guys.
Like, think about it. When
let's wrap up the op and no op. So
when I go into a company, right, and my excellence in that company, I don't want my excellence to be defined by my blackness. I don't want them to say he was the best black CEO we ever had. I want them to say, yo, he was the best CEO we ever had. We made the most money. We had the best growth. He treated people the best. The minute you make it about the blackness, then it takes away from the fact that I was better than all of the white boys too.
I can see that happens. Like even in pageantry, when I used to compete, if some young lady won and she was like the first black queen to win for New York ever, it's like they highlight that, like she's the first black, and then other blacks, we celebrate that because it's like, wow, for so long it was a string of white people winning, but the minute a black girl won, it was like it had to be celebrated. I get both sides. You want to celebrate it because it's like this is the first time something's happening for a black person that we can be proud of, but then also it's like she was just the best girl there that year, you know?
I feel you.
So
I feel you. Well, so I got a question for Tribble, right? Because you're super pro-black like I'm pro-black. If another dude came up and was having the same success as Ryan Coogler, say it was, who's another young black director right now? Salvin Naeem.
Salvin Naeem. Yep.
Oh, matter of fact, Jordan Peele.
I was going to say Barry Jenkins. Jordan Peele works.
Yeah.
What if he got up and just sounded like a Malibu white boy? Would it take away from his success as a black director? Whoever the director is, let's not even give him a name. Let's just say black guy from Georgia goes out and breaks all of these records, but he talks like, quote unquote, a white boy. He code switches. Mm-hmm. Would we then as a black community say, no, I'm not celebrating that sellout? Would we do that?
Some people do.
That's why it's problematic. There we go.
Childish Gambino. What's his real name?
Donald Glover.
Donald Glover. He gets flack because he isn't, or he doesn't get celebrated as much, I think, in the black community because he's dated white women. He doesn't act like the typical black guy. Man.
That's
right?
problematic for me.
I get it.
That's just problematic for me.
And I think he's extremely talented in many genres and many industries. So I get what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want Ryan Coogler's blackness to take away from his greatness. He should be celebrated in all of it. And then we should be like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Now, I will say this. As a brother, I felt like Tribble, right? Like, yo, he up there sounding like himself. Mm-hmm. But I personally was not going to, remember when I made my post about it? I wasn't going to make my post about him sounding like himself because I don't want to bring attention to that. I want to bring attention to his accomplishments, not his skin color. That's to me why I feel like.
Round us out, Trip.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, but I felt like we kind of went into the code switching.
Yeah,
thing.
but you had asked her a question and she never got to answer it. So.
But I think what you said is kind of the point. You don't want your blackness to take away from your greatness. And the way that he speaks in his black vernacular as himself, not losing any part of his identity. He has braids in his hair. He's putting black identity at the forefront of the movies that he makes. Mm-hmm. That in turn allows his greatness and his blackness to work hand in hand. And I think that's the point of acknowledging the way that he shows up as his full self while being great in the things that he does.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree with him showing up as his full self. Mm-hmm. I mean, y'all can have that point. That's y'all perspective. I don't got to agree with it, though. Because I don't feel like I want my blackness to be always on the forefront of what I do. Because if you really want to occupy space, you don't always, it's the same thing with the LGBTQ community, right? And I spoke to one of my friends who you know, and he says he gets so tired that every time he goes somewhere, they make a point to say, here's this gay man. And he's like, why can't my greatness just occupy the space in itself? That's where I'm coming from with it. Why can't my greatness just occupy my space in itself?
We would like that, but that's just not the reality of the world we live in, unfortunately.
But how come black people keep doing it to black people? That's what I'm saying is problematic, right? If we keep doing it to us, they're always going to do it to us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, of course we can celebrate being the first black, but also let's just celebrate being better than everybody else. Yeah, I may have been the first black, but I also was just better than everybody else. Like, and all those people weren't black. Right. So it was like I was better than y'all. Like, can we celebrate that?
That I was just better than y'all. That's it.
That's it. Like, period. I was just better than like Jesse Owens, first black Olympian to win 4 gold medals, and he won it during a time when Hitler was hosting the Olympics in Germany. Right? It mattered that his blackness was there, but you never heard Jesse Owens get up and say, "I'm the first black." He was just like, "I was better than all of them." To me, that was just dope. Like, if you watch, he was just like, yeah, I'm here. I'm faster than you. I jump further than you. I run faster than you. I jump higher than you. I just happen to be black. Deal with it. Like, to me, that was like the ultimate display. So, and when it comes to code switching, I kind of feel like I'm not a big code switcher, but I will learn. I did learn that you get access to different people if they can understand what you're saying. For example, if I walk into a meeting with, Warren Buffett, and I'm just like, you know what I'm saying, Warren? I got this idea. Boom, check it. Warren may be like, huh? Or Warren may know and understand. But for me, I'm not going to take the chance. I'm going to go in there and give him my best elevator pitch in 2 minutes in a way that he can understand it if I'm trying to get access to those resources.
Right. So your approach is different depending on the person.
Yeah, depending on the person. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? And also my code doesn't switch if it's just white people. There are very educated black people who I know I can't talk up to and walk up to and be like, yo, what's good, my G? Like, some black people not with that either.
Well, that's why I said there's a time and place for everything initially in my soundbite. It's like you got to know your audience. You got to know who you're speaking to. You have to know what the opportunity is. Completely get that. All right. So for me, with my perspective as it comes to just the code switching or just speaking properly, I was raised in a household, of course, that's West Indian. And my mom, I think for so long, leaving Jamaica when she was younger, even when she was younger, my grandmother always stressed to her the importance of speaking properly. So with Jamaica being under British rule for so many years, there's this aspiration that some Jamaicans have to kind of dim their dialect and their patois, and then they want to sound more proper. So that's why Jamaicans have developed this version called twang or twanging, where you try to sound a little bit more educated, quote unquote.
And that's what Tribble's talking about with proximity to whiteness.
So, right. And that's what they aspire towards. So my grandmother, from when I can even remember as a kid, we would sometimes watch this Jamaican comedian, Oliver Samuels, and I would repeat, my brother and I would repeat that. And it was like strictly Jamaican patois that he would speak it. And my grandmother would say, that's what he does because he's a comedian, but you should always speak properly. So my mom was always big with me on that, speaking properly. So we joke at my mom now. We're just like, girl, you're a Jamaican. Like, you barely sound Jamaican because for so many years, she's tried to kind of eradicate that Jamaican accent to sound more proper. And for me now, growing up, now having my mom when I did pageants, I started at 10. And for her, when we would have like a speech competition, she would always have me enunciate and say the ends of my words. And
that's what you did to me.
I just grew up, but I kind of grew up in that. So for me, it was normal. So then I go to school in East New York.
I know, yeah.
In East New York, Brooklyn, Bethlehem Baptist Academy, shout out. And I'm around hood Black kids.
Yeah.
So when I got to that school, it's already bad enough that I'm super light skinned, got straight hair, look kind of white, kind of Indian, kind of Spanish. They don't know. So the kids used to laugh at me and say I sound like a white girl. But that was just me being like, well, how am I supposed to sound? So I made it a point when I was in there now to immerse myself into the Black vernacular that was the hood talk. So that's why I feel like I was able to do both. And throughout the course of my life growing up, there were spaces where it required me to fit in.
Facts.
That I sound like a Brooklyn Roundaway girl.
Fact.
And then when I had to get on pageant, it's like, I'm Kadeen Joseph. Thank you.
Fact.
And I spent my entire life doing that. And to me, it wasn't necessarily about trying to fit into those spaces, but I knew that how I represented myself in those spaces mattered. So if I was going on stage, I wouldn't be like, yo, what up? My name is Kadeen. I'm from Brooklyn. Da, 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 da. I'm not doing that on stage. I'm not doing that in an interview with someone. But when I'm around my people, then I can let loose a little bit, which is what I tend to do now.
But can I ask you a question? When you got up on that stage and you spoke properly and said the end of the word, were you still not Kadeen?
No, I was still Kadeen.
So then you still sounded like a Black girl to me.
Okay, yeah.
That's my point. Is like Black women are not monolithic, which means that if you Black, you only sound like your hood roundaway chick you grew up with. No, there are Black women who grow up in different parts of the country who only sound like how you sound on the pageant stage. They're brown skinned, they're dark, they have coarse hair and everything. Does that mean that they're less Black?
Absolutely
and
not.
That's my point.
And
that's
then you throw me into the news circuit now, so I go to school for broadcast journalism, right? That's a whole nother form of speaking properly. So now I'm doing voice and diction. The aim for that was to sound like the dialect was like Midwest American, because they felt like that was the authentic American. When you strip away all the accents and the dialects, that was the most authentic version of what it sounded like to be American. So when you hear news reporters speak on TV and they're always like, hello, I'm Kadeen Ellis and I'm reporting live for the evening news, that too, whoever decided that that was like the be all that ended all of the way news reporters were supposed to sound, that's what I aspire to in that space. So it's funny now when I meet or talk to news reporters who are out of work, they're just in person. They still sound like what they sound like on television because it becomes a part of their identity too. It's like they're not necessarily code switching. This is now them. So I don't look at a news reporter and be like, well, damn, if it's a Black news reporter, for example, I actually know one who's Dominican. I don't look at her and be like, damn, you're less Dominican now because you're a news reporter and you're speaking to me properly in terms of what we would say is a proper way to speak in person, and you're not working. Does that make sense?
I mean, it does. It does make sense because I agree with it. That's what made sense to me. I thought you were in agreement with Tribble.
Well, I did agree with some of the things Tribble said.
And I'm in agreement with some of the things Tribble said,
But then now, in my experience, I'm able to see a couple different, ways that it can and can't work for people.
So let me ask all y'all a question. I'm going to ask y'all. Y'all have kids. How y'all going to raise y'all kids to speak?
You got kids, mister. Go ahead.
Oh, I got kids. I'm
Yeah.
the only one with kids. Both
Well,
y'all
no,
looking right at me.
Matt wants to have kids. Triple talked about possibly, not possibly. But
Yeah.
let's just an example. Like if you have kids, are you gonna raise your kids and say, "Yo, I need you to speak black. Like I need you to speak," or are you gonna say, "Become who you are," and how they speak becomes their identity? Is my point. I'm asking.
Well, my response, I guess, is twofold, right? I hold the thought or idea that if you code switch or if you have the idea to code switch, you're already lost, right? Because you're already thinking about something that you're not thinking about the task at hand. You're thinking about how you appear or look while delivering whatever you have to say or whatever you have to do. That's number one. Number two, code switching is important because a lot of times we feel like the environment or the surroundings have to sort of it has to change for us, right? We don't have to fit into the environment. The environment has to change.
You talking about as individuals or just black people?
Individuals.
As individuals,
right? For example, walking into as a New Yorker walking into a Southern or Atlanta restaurant or whatever, and the waiter says, "What you want? How you doing? Like, what you want? What can I get you?" Right? For me, I want, "Hi, how you doing? How can I serve you?" But if she talks to me differently, I understand that I'm walking into their establishment. So I'm normally gonna just accept what they give me because I know it's not a
so you're talking about accepting code switching from people?
No, I'm talking about code switching is not only just you
changing the way you speak,
but it's assimilating to environments that are around you. Right?
So, for example, if you go to a Jamaican restaurant and you want more oxtail gravy,
yeah,
you're gonna talk with a little bit of accent with the young lady behind the counter because she might relate to you.
No, I speak how I want to speak.
Okay,
accent or not, Jamaican or not, I'm gonna speak how I want to speak. But understanding that the code that she has, I need to accept whatever's going on there.
I see what he's saying.
Okay.
I see what you're saying is when you get into an environment, the code is created by whoever the establishment owner or whoever runs the establishment.
The establishment, the country, the region, the air, the
that's
state.
Fair. No, that's fair.
Wherever you are, you should be able to understand that you should code switch yourself. You don't have to simulate, right? But don't change up. What you talking to me? Why are you talking to me like that? Ask me how I want it. Like, that's unacceptable, right? For me personally, because you got to understand that people run their business the way they want. Countries run their countries the way they want, and you can't change it. For example, go to China, expect the same pleasantries that you have in America. It's probably not going to happen.
I know. I trust me. I understand because I hate when I hear. Remember we were talking about the other day when we heard this old white dude say to, I think it was like, "Yo, speak American."
Yeah.
Which to me is like the most wildest. Like, speak American. What the fuck is American? Yeah. But I feel you. It's like code switching is also the. Well, I never thought about that till you just said it, but that actually is fair.
Yeah, for me, that's what it is. So going back to
the environment.
So going back to my to my child, I feel it's important to understand or teach her that she's gonna have to understand and how to navigate these spaces, and that's part of code switching. But also, I want her to be able to code switch if she needs to. It's almost a superpower, right? To be able, like, for you to go in these spaces and or just to go to school and, you know, your mom teaches you how to speak a certain way. And I know we Jamaican.
Yeah, we get it.
That twang when it comes out, like, you have to speak like this. And it gets kind of funky when you hear other people do it. But understanding the reason for it is survival. Like, the reason that you were taught to code switch is to be able to not have your speech be a distraction to what your message is.
Absolutely.
And not necessarily stand out when you don't necessarily need to.
Stand out.
Your performance should stand out. Your
which is what you're
your
saying.
abilities should stand out. What you bring to the table should stand out more than you yourself. Like you guys just said it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't be the story.
Don't be the story. It's important.
It goes all back to that. Like, that's it. So teaching my child, I'm absolutely going to teach how to code switch because I think it's essential for survival. But as far as changing who you are for the sake of doing it, that I completely disagree.
And then it becomes an identity issue.
Correct.
Which you don't want to happen, especially with the kids. I don't feel like I've ever had to, when I'm with the boys, I don't think I've ever had to correct them on how to say something. And it could be because they're not growing up in Brooklyn like we did, so they may not sound like Brooklyn kids. They may get flack for that growing up. Like, you were born in Brooklyn, but don't sound Brooklyn.
They're going to get flack from it. They do. Like, when they go back to Brooklyn, they be like, "Yo, why you talk like that?" And I constantly tell them, maybe this is another reason why I feel like I tell my kids all the time, you're not going to be defined by how you speak. You're
Right.
not going to be defined by how you look, bro. You're going to be defined by what you put out in the world. The essence you put out in the world is going to define you. Anybody who says you have to be this way or sound this way or do this because of the way you look is not a person you want to be around.
Or anyway.
And I got to tell my kids that all the time. We talked about this on another one, and we're going to talk about the Black excellence. You know, it's like, what does Black excellence look like?
Right.
You know, and I mean, we have a whole nother podcast. We're going to talk about that, but I don't think Black excellence is just assimilating to whiteness
or aspiring to their
or
spaces.
aspiring to in a Black version.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think sometimes we get lost in that. It's like, let's just aspire to do everything white people do in a Black way. And that's Black excellence. What if I want to do something that white people have never done before?
Mm-hmm.
That's not excellent, even if it's great. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want my definition of who I am to always be compared to anything or anybody else.
That's problematic, bro.
That's what this whole thing is problematic.
And it's more than being problematic, it is losing yourself just to assimilate to something else.
Yeah.
Is hurtful for not just your generation, bitch. You're gonna teach that to other people, and you're gonna find a problem with it when other people aren't doing the same thing as you.
Baby, that's literally me. Think about us. We come from the similar backgrounds. It's like being always concerned about what everybody's gonna think, and then you create this version of who you think people want you to be, and then you sometimes don't even know who you are.
Facts.
You try to figure out, you know, like, and then it's like, I'm doing all of this for what? For who?
Exactly.
Ultimately?
And I think too, you asked, would I raise my kids to speak Black? Well, first of all, I would raise my children to be Black and to appreciate their Blackness and celebrate it and not shrink it or change it for any other reason. So if my kids started growing up and I realized that they don't sound like I do, I think that children and the way that they speak, they are affected by their environment. So kids spend a lot of time at school. If they go to a white school, they're going to talk like the people around them. But if they know that if they're not doing that because they want to sound white, which is why some people do code switch or have code switched historically, is because proximity to whiteness, I need to sound more white in order to be accepted and taken seriously in these spaces, not necessarily because you want to sound more eloquent or you want to be able to orate, but it's because this is how the white people talk. I should talk like them so that I don't stand out as a Black person. I wouldn't want my children to think that way. I would always want them to be steadfast in their identity as a Black person. And I don't think that being Black means that you can't speak a certain way. You know what I'm saying? I do think that Black people specifically in certain regions do speak in certain ways, but that doesn't make people that don't speak like that less Black. I don't think that is true.
That's where I think the message gets lost a little bit.
Code switching is particular to speaking a different way in order to be accepted or taken seriously in certain spaces. So like Kadeen said, she code switched when she was around Black people because at home she was taught to speak a certain way. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're trying to talk white or that you're trying to be white, but code switching means that you're trying to fit in. And so when it does happen that you are Black and you code switch in white spaces, you're doing that because you have an internalized assumption that the people around you are not going to accept you for speaking in the way that you naturally speak as a Black person or using the vernacular that you use, that you've been taught to use as a Black person, that you have to kind of change your identity, to shrink your identity in order to fit in better with those folks, when you shouldn't have to, because the work should speak for itself. If you're the CEO of a company, you're a Black CEO, and you come in talking like, you know, whatever, are you going to be afraid that the white people that work under you are not going to take you seriously? And so you're going to have to use a different type of voice or a different type of language in order to get them to pay attention to what you're doing, even if you're the best at what you do.
I can see
that is what code switching is.
I understand that, but this is my challenge though, right? If I said to you or you right now, wow, you do this good as a woman, you should do this like a woman, do that like a woman, how does that make you feel?
People do that all the time.
I just asked the question, though. Answer the question. If I say to you, do this like a woman, you do that like a woman, don't that make you feel like that person's putting you in a box?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So when we say to Black men, you don't talk like a Black man, what do you think that does to us? It puts us in a box. When you say a Black man talks like a Black man, it puts us in a box. What I'm saying is the same way it makes you feel as a woman when someone puts a label on you, it puts us in the same box when you tell us as a black man, you speak like a black man.
Right.
What does that even mean? Like right now, you just put like, I only am supposed to speak this way. I'm just saying that I think that it's problematic. I'm not saying that it's going anywhere. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist for women, because it does. The same way I said, how does it make you feel? And your first response is, well, people still do that. Don't it make you feel bad? That's because it's problematic. That's what I'm saying, is that this whole idea of a black person has to speak a black way, that is problematic. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm just saying it's problematic.
What I was agreeing with Tribble just now saying is that if a black man, for example, were to walk into an office with his white counterparts, and maybe he's in some sort of role where he's trying to be a leader, or he wants a leadership role in space, and he doesn't speak, or code switch, then a lot of times in those particular circumstances, maybe they may not take him seriously, or may not think that he can do the job. Unless he has shown and proved and already has some kind of status, when certain people in general, when you reach a certain status, you can talk however you want to talk. So I feel like Ryan Coogler, for example, is that like, he's just like, yo, I can talk my shit however I want to talk my shit right now to whoever in whatever space, because this is who I am. And I have this movie that has been historic behind me that nobody can tell me shit about. So that's what I was agreeing with when you said that. It's like, yo, you walk into a space and you haven't shown and proved yourself yet, then yeah, you may have to code switch along the way to get to where you got to go.
I'm in agreement with everything y'all said. All I'm saying is that it's problematic, and y'all are not trying to see how problematic it is.
We see it. I'm saying I get it.
But what I'm saying is that Tribble still hasn't said it's problematic.
Because I don't think that is problematic. I don't think that black dialect is a problematic thing. I don't think that acknowledging that there is a such thing as black dialect is a problematic thing. I don't.
And that's fine. We don't have to agree. I just think.
But we've acknowledged it, right? That it is a problem. Or you're saying it's not a problem?
No. She said she doesn't think that it's problematic.
Oh, okay,
that's what I'm saying. You're missing that point.
I'm not saying that all black people have to speak a certain way. I think that you brought up the femininity, or doing things like a woman. That's a great example, because that is something that I have also had to do. I'm not particularly feminine. And all through my life, in college, especially being in a sorority, I would make myself more feminine in ways that did not feel comfortable for me. But as I got stronger in my identity and understood that this is my version of femininity, I don't have to conform to somebody else's version of femininity.
You don't see how that's the same thing for vernacular with black people? You don't see how that's the same?
So Tribble, do you think that people make assumptions about you just off of how you naturally present, which is, I'm not sure, in spaces that you're in, what feedback do you get from people with just how you show up? Being a queer woman that some people may not know when they look at you that you are.
I mean, all types. I'm not, like I said, like I'm not particularly feminine in the way that I speak or the way that I walk, or you know what I'm saying, the way that I relate to other people. People always say, I thought you were more feminine because of how you dress.
I know what you mean.
But I know that the women that I grew up around, I get my femininity from them. So this is my version of femininity.
Right.
I think that the same thing comes with language. The places that you grow up, that's how you learn to communicate. That's how you learn to speak. If you grow up in, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I have learned over the years to celebrate the parts of my identity and the way that they are, instead of trying to assimilate, or instead of trying to code switch, instead of trying to make other people comfortable with me,
It's take me as I am.
Take me as I am. And you can work on your own comfort. I'm not going to do that for you. That's your work. It's not mine.
Right.
I'm comfortable. I'm working on my comfort. You work on yours.
Okay. Anything else that we have to say as we round out code switching?
No.
Really good, insightful conversation here.
I like that combo though.
And to be honest, bro, I understand where Tribble is coming from. Like I understand.
You just wanted her to say it's problematic.
No.
The word of the day is problematic, y'all.
I want to say that it's problematic.
Yes.
Tribble
Your experience is different.
My
as a black man.
experience is different, and
I
to be honest, that's the whole point of having a podcast.
Yes.
Is that we don't have to agree.
Right.
Her perspective is no less more important than mine. It's just different, and that's the most important part. That's how you feel, Tribble? Oh shit! Based on what you've been through. Based on what you're saying, I can understand that, which I can understand that. From my perspective, I just think it's problematic. Like the fact that even the fact that we had to have a conversation. Me and Matt watched the whole thing and talked about the 70 millimeter and the IMAX thing, and it was cool, right? The fact that the internet is talking about how he talks and still don't understand the difference in the preparations of the film is the problem.
They were
and
too
to
hung
me,
up on how he sounded.
that's why it was problematic, was because y'all don't even understand that he sat down for 7 minutes and explained the difference in the preparations, and all black people said was, yeah, that nigga sound like he from Oakland, cuz that's my nigga. And I'm like, did y'all go see the movie? Do y'all understand differently? Right. But I do understand where Tripple's coming from. Is like, I was prideful in the fact that he did sound like himself.
Yeah, and the fact that people don't know what he's talking about is probably the reason why they were so proud in that moment. They were like, wow, he's getting super technical. He is an expert in his field.
He sure is.
And I don't know what he's talking about because I've never studied this and I never even thought to do that. But the thing that I can relate to is that this is a black man explaining to me something that I've never heard of before. I think that people
that shit made me prideful. That shit made me prideful.
When he started rolling out all the different films and stuff. I was just like, that you say, okay, good. Glad we saw it in 70 millimeters.
And especially in a time where we are right now, where DEI and stuff is being pushed back because white people think that black people are just given what we have.
Absolutely.
And you watch Ryan Coogler talk about his craft and the technical aspects, and you think, oh, this nigga did go to film school. He has been doing this for a long time.
Right. Ain't no DEI over here.
Exactly. So I think being proud of being true to our identity and the best at what we do. I mean, I'm gonna be like, and that nigga got braids.
He sure do. Period.
I feel you on that.
Period. All right, y'all. Great conversation. Let's go take another break, pay some bills, and come back into Listener Letter. We'll be back.
Hey, yo, we in New York for press day. You see we all dressed up.
We landed.
Got off our mini skirt.
You know what I'm saying?
I look all right. I got pleats in my pants. Don't know what these pleats is for. But it's press, baby. Check us out.
Ellis ever after.
She drunk.
No, to that.
Oh, nah, man, don't put me in there, bro. Please. I don't listen to social media, man.
Yep, it's the world's most dangerous morning show, The Breakfast Club. We got some special guests. Duvall and Kadeen Ellis are here.
I come and get my little fix, and get my bacon, egg, and cheese, what I gotta get, and I get back.
There you go.
All right, now we're back with listener letters. Let's see what we're talking about this week. Hi, I really need some advice about my marriage. I'm 26 years old and my husband is 27. We've been together for 11 years, but going on 3 years of marriage. 11 years, that was earlier. 15? Yeah, okay. We recently had our second child, and I'm trying to keep the dating aspect of marriage alive. Lately, it feels like we put our children before our marriage. For example, when we have a conversation, it'll most likely be about the kids rather than us. There are even times when we put the kids to bed and finally have alone time. We discuss what we have to do for the kids, like doctor's appointments, etc. I'm not a selfish person. I love talking about the joy that our kids bring us, but I don't always want them to be the topic of conversation. I just want the relationship to somewhat get back to how it was before we got married and had kids. Deval, I love the way you treat Kadeen, and you guys still have fun with one another like you guys did before the kids. I thought about going out on a date once a month, but I'm not sure that will be enough. Please give me some advice as to how I can put my marriage before my children. Love you guys, and may God continue to bless you and your family.
Yo.
Did you read the book?
Oh.
Did you read We Over Me? There is literally a chapter in here that says
the kids don't come first.
And the sooner you realize that, if your unit as husband and wife is not strong. So the thing is, I realized through this conversation here, through the listener letter itself, that it didn't seem like there's a problem. It's just that the children tend to always be the topic of conversation. So it looks like maybe, sis, you have to initiate the date night where you say to hubby, like, listen, the kids are off the table. The kids are fine. The kids will be fine. They'll be there. Now let's tap back into us. Because that's several times the conversation Deval and I would have.
Yeah, bottom line is, me and Matt talked about this when Matt newly married. Your partner wants to be desired. That's not a man or woman thing. That's just a partner thing. Your partner wants to be desired, which means when you're at the table for dinner and you're at your phone talking about the kids or something, you're not desiring your partner.
Right.
If your mind is somewhere else and you're thinking about what the kids have to do, you're not desiring your partner. Talk about what your partner is interested in. If your partner is interested in theater and makeup or whatever it is, find whatever your partner is interested in so that they can feel desirable. We should do a whole topic on that about helping your partner stay desirable. Because we talked about that as men, but the funny thing is it like spiraled into like, well, how does your wife want to be desirable? And then me and Matt was talking about that in the gym. So that's actually a good episode. Like,
while y'all were working on your bodies.
No matter of fact,
I love that.
It literally was happening like that. Me and Matt
day.
was in there, no shirt on, pause.
Together.
Talking about like, yo, like we as men want to look.
We have to insert the stoops for Matt. Stoops.
Josh in here stooping too because he's not in shape.
Dang, Josh.
Shots.
But nah,
innocent bystander.
We were talking about how like we trying to make ourselves more desirable for y'all, but then it was just like, yo, like y'all want to be desirable too. Because where did you take Krista that day? To the batting cage.
Yeah.
He took her to the batting cage because that's something she wanted to do. And it was like almost the idea of like, yo, like she wants to be desirable. I'm gonna take her to what she wants to do so she can live in this space of feeling seen. And so many times being desirable has nothing to do with how you look, but also just being seen by your partner.
So then think about that, sis, who wrote in here. Like maybe think about a way that your partner can be seen and it's something specific just for your partner.
There you go.
That they're into whatever it is they're into, you know, billiards. So you go to a billiards hall and you play. And then that might take away the parent aspect and the children from it, and they feel like themselves again, you know? And that's ultimately, I think, what within marriage you're always trying to chase. Still feeling like yourself, but still being a contributing member to your partnership as well as your family. So good luck. I don't think that you have too many issues here. The fact that you guys have been together this long, since that young, and are still doing well, I just tap back in because there's longevity in that. We're proof. All right, y'all. Shall we wrap it up, honey?
Come on, baby.
You tell me. Okay, so moment of truth time. Let's jump into that. Before
if you'd like to be featured as one of our listening letters, email us at ellisadvance@gmail.com. Kay don't even want to do her job no more, y'all.
I don't, y'all. I'm getting over sinus infection. I'm sorry. I'm getting over the sinus infection, so I'm still struggling a bit.
It was
all
green that came out. That's why she went green. She dressed like a booger.
Deval, you are crazy. I'm sorry, y'all. If I sound a little funny and I may be a little out of it today, that's it.
But you came through for them,
Listen,
though, because we had to do the
podcast.
Talk to them.
I said everybody's in town. Josh flew into town. Matt set all this shit up. I had to make sure I showed up for y'all. So give me a little grace today, y'all. I'm definitely on meds and, you know, barely making it. Didn't sleep well. All right, so now we can get into moment of truth. Thank you, babe, for picking up what I dropped.
Yeah, it's all right, baby. I always pick it up. You be dropping in a lot.
All right, let's finish out with a quick moment of truth. Let's start with Tribble.
Moment of truth. However you are black, you deserve the world. Be yourself.
Period. I like that one.
However you are black, you deserve the world. Put that on a shirt,
Put
bro.
that on a shirt. Tribble. We talked about your T-shirt line.
Shirt. However you are black, you deserve the world.
Start compiling that. You need to start a list.
Oh, I have a list
there. Good.
Ash Tribble. That's what it should be. However
I
you
want
are
mine
black,
to
you
say.
deserve the world.
I
Ash
like
Tribble.
that. I want one that says a gay with K. Tribble. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Just put that down now. Thank you. Okay, Josh, your turn.
All right, so my moment of truth is code switching is okay, but do it with a Jamaican accent. Anyway.
That's funny because that was gonna be my moment of truth.
Serious.
You have to speak properly when you go into people's place.
Say bomb black. Say rude boy rascal.
I mean, if you are talking properly and you say something like blood clot, does it sound better?
There you go.
No, it sounds just as good.
There you go.
Joshua, can you please lock off the blood clot camera? Thank you,
There you
Joshua.
What is wrong with
You see me. You see me.
Period. I like that. Matt.
He took mine. Got one to get out.
Babe.
My moment of truth, I'm actually gonna piggyback off of Josh, man. Like code switching has more to do about the environment you're in than you yourself. So remain true to who you are, but be able to move in any environment.
That's it.
Because if you black, you deserve the world.
Period. Ask Tribble. And for me, it just piggybacks off of that and goes back to my soundbite at the very beginning. There is a time and place for everything. So do what you're comfortable with, but never change who you are. All right, y'all. I love that for us. Patreon, gang, what's up? Y'all been tapping in and we love to have y'all. Be sure to find us on Patreon if you are not there yet to see the after show and more exclusive Ellis Ever After podcast content. And you can find us on social media at Ellis Ever After. I'm Kadeen I Am.
And I am Deval. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe.
Yeah, he did it again, y'all. He forgot to ask y'all.
What?
To follow us
Oh.
at Matt Ellis.
My bad, y'all. Y'all heard Matt.
_Matt.Ellis.
Y'all
Please
heard
follow
Matt.
me.
All right, you could double click on my flicks at Joshua Dwayne _.
He practiced. He practiced
on
that.
my flicks.
You had it.
What
He
the
I
hell?
didn't practice. I didn't practice.
That
He was
was
in the
tough,
mirror
though.
this morning,
That means
licking
that
his
Josh
lips when he said it too.
Josh be
Yo,
thinking about y'all.
You could double click on my flicks at Joshua _Dwayne.
Period.
I like that. I like that.
I'm at Tribs the Cool, TRIBBZ the Cool on everything.
Because she's just so cool, y'all. All right, we'll see you next time.
Dead ass. Cut.
Ellis Ever After is an iHeartMedia podcast. It's hosted by Kadeen and Deval Ellis. It's produced by Tribble. Video production by Joshua Dwayne and Matthew Ellis. Video editing by LaShawn Rowe.